Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jodo Cast, your Star Wars gaming podcast. This is episode... I gotta check. It's... we're on 60, episode 60. I'm Evan Lewis, and I'm joined by Leo Andri.
Sure are.
And Joe Latovsky.
Hola.
And since he just got done doing my job for me, we're gonna keep around Christian Sorrell.
Hey, what's happening, people on the internet?
Man, everyone, their timing is just impeccable tonight. No one's like lagging behind. No one's just nodding in agreement to being introduced. I love it.
I did almost f*** up your intro, though.
Well, you just did. You just did.
Sorry.
Oh, gosh, dang it.
Because I was really, when you're like, and this is, and then when you're going to say episode 60, I was going to say, yell out Jeopardy also at the same time.
Good thing you didn't do that. That would have really messed up the whole, kind of the momentum of this.
Yes, because we're like a steamroller. And he's got the consumption. Just like Doc Holliday, who he doesn't know who that is.
That's the rumor.
All right, well, let's get this kicked off. Let's see here. We've got some new patrons to give a big old JodoCast thank you to. Yippee! And the person at the very top of the initiative, we did give a shout-out already to him.
That's true.
In the last episode.
Oh, all right, then screw him.
Yeah, whoever that guy is, I don't know. I don't know who this guy is. Christian Sorrell, thank you, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Again. I feel very fancy getting 2 shout-outs.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, not just anybody gets 2 shout-outs.
I was going to say, now our other patrons are going to start messaging us, complaining, because they only got 1 shout-out on the air.
Well, if they lived in state and did my bidding, then they just might.
That's all it takes.
Yep.
Just servitude.
Never mind. All right, and we have to also thank Seth Glenn, who has also appeared on the show several times before. So, thanks, Seth. Woo! We appreciate you, and we appreciate yes, we appreciate Patrick Allen. Man, we have all real names this time. Patrick, thank you so much for joining the Cool Kids team.
You mean most of the people use their real names?
Some people don't. Some people are like, you will refer to me by my Dungeons and Dragons name.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, we have some of those people.
Maybe we should adopt Star Wars names.
Isn't there a name generator for that? Like the first letter of your dog's last name?
So I see that pop up every once in a while, and I am like 90% certain that started on the back of a cereal box because I remember seeing it on the back of a cereal box when I was a kid. It must have been around Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace. Because I remember my name was Let Joe Too Far. And then a year ago when I saw this on Facebook or whatever, I did it and I found the name and it came back to me. I'm like, wait a minute, I learned this eating cereal one Saturday morning.
That's a great story.
Yeah, so that thing that spreads around never gives credit to the cereal box, and I feel like...
You're really in it just to give credit to the cereal box. Credit where credit's due, that's what I think.
Yeah. Well, it's really good cereal, And
was it like Jar Jar
That
O's
was probably
that?
I don't know, it was probably the cereal that gave me that lightsaber spoon.
What?
Never had one of those lightsaber spoons?
I haven't had the pleasure.
It's a little plastic spoon, but it's got a lightsaber hilt, and then the top half of it is clear plastic that you did. Yeah. And it cuts through things, and it cauterizes wounds.
Oh, wonderful. If only we could all have that. So, having said thank you to all the best people in the world, if you want to join the Cool Kids team, you can also do so at, not JodoCast, at patreon.com/thejodocast. There we go. My brain does work sometimes. And I was contemplating skipping what we've been playing, but there seems to be a lot on the list, so maybe we should do that. Let's go with Joe.
Well, I think there's a lot because it's been a while since we've talked. So I made an Imperial Assault video. I finally put up the big game hunt, which ended up becoming Bosk's bachelor party for Imperial Assault. So that's up on our YouTube now. I played an Imperial Assault Store Championship, which was fun but had a low turnout. We did a Destiny Store Championship, and I took 8th out of like 13 using a deck I made the night before in about 5 minutes. It was Elite, Orasing, and Django. Been playing some Force Arena again because the new update that came out that added prequel content actually added a lot to the game. And it's kind of grabbed my interest again. Especially the new draft mode where it basically just gives you a choice of 2 cards and you pick one over and over again until you have a whole deck, and then you play against somebody else who had to do the same thing.
Kind of like the whatever that is, Arena in Hearthstone. Yeah, I liked Force Arena a lot. I played a lot of that when it first came out, so that's kind of interesting.
I'm annoyed at General Grievous, though. Every time I've played against General Grievous, he's kicked my ass. But I do really like the animation when you're like sprinting with Grievous. He goes on, I guess, I was going to say all 4s, but more like all 6s, and like scuttles like a spider like he does a couple times, which is a nice touch, I thought. And then I played the CCG with Leo, but we'll talk about that when Leo says what he's been playing. And I got in 2 games of Rebellion in 2 nights last week or 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Because I had to do research for the Rise of the Empire expansion, which Fantasy Flight was cool enough to send our ways. And if you haven't seen it yet, there is a video review up on our YouTube about the Rise of the Empire expansion, which should be in stores any week now, I think.
So
That's what I've been playing. I played a lot.
Cool. And hey, Leo, what have you been doing?
I played in our Destiny Store Champs. I don't think we've recorded since I did that at any rate.
Nope.
Made it into the top 4, so that was cool. I now own my very first playmat.
Ooh, and you love it.
It's a playmat, so I guess now that I actually have one that I didn't have to spend money on, I'll use it.
It's a good policy.
But I wasn't about to spend money on no playmat. So, yeah, that was
just
cool.
Get a playmat that says playmats are dumb.
So,
Also,
I actually got 5th place at the tournament, or at the store champs, but the guy in 4th place, after the rounds of Swiss, he went up to the judge and was like, okay, I'm dropping now. And he's like, but you're in the top 4. And he's like, yeah, I didn't think I was going to make it to the top 4, though, so I got to go. Bye.
Got to live up to my expectations.
And so then the judge was all like, good news, Leo, you're in the top 4 now. Enjoy. So,
are you sure you didn't like arrange his family to be kidnapped, and that's why he had to go? You checked his phone. He's like, "Oh crap!"
I really wanted that playmat.
Is that all you've been up to?
I played some of the CCG with Joe.
What?
I learned how to play it. We played over Tabletop Simulator. We weren't.
Yeah,
we don't have enough patrons yet where we can fly across the country to play the CCG.
Oh,
yet.
Someday.
It was a lot of fun to get to play that game since it was the first time I'd played it in probably 10, 11 years, something like that. Yeah, I don't think I've played it since college, so.
Jeez. It's been longer for me.
Yeah, we just played the with the decks that come with the 2-player premiere introductory set.
Really? Oh gosh.
Yeah. So with like the super crappy Vader and Luke in them and stuff.
Just Vader and just Luke.
So.
Gross.
And then it doesn't have any starships or anything in it, so it was a kind of a limited introduction to the game for Joe. But I keep bugging him, trying to get him to play more now. But he's always like, sure, I'll play, but I can't play until like midnight. Sorry, man.
More like I can't play until like 9 p.m.
Yeah, that's what I said, like midnight.
No,
This
that'd
is
be
the
midnight
early-
my time.
This is like the early 2000s CCG, right?
No.
It's the mid.
Well, I mean, some of it
Or
was.
mid-90s, I guess. Yeah,
I was going to say some of it was published into the early 2000s, but by the early 2000s, because it was either 2001 or 2002 when they lost their license.
01.
So
yeah.
Was it
I
01?
remember my only CCG story with that was that I was really, really into the idea of playing it, and I asked for Christmas for this anthology set that was in this big, long golden box. There was the CCG anthology.
Oh yeah,
It was like a whole thing, and there was a box under the Christmas tree, and I was like, it's that box. I like picked it up. It was heavy, like, you know, like a box full of cards would be, and everything. Christmas Day, I opened it. It was Jenga. It was the most disappointed, one of the most disappointing gifts I've ever gotten, because I had convinced myself that it was this CCG anthology. So I never I think I played the game once, like with friends' cards. I never actually
Probably with Zach's cards.
Yeah, Zach and our friend Tommy's, because they were playing it, because we were all really into the Lord of the Rings card game, and you know that was like
same
when
company.
G's were king.
Did Decipher do Lord? No? Did Decipher do Lord of the Rings? The old one, the one that was out in the 90s.
They did do a Lord of the Rings CCG with movie images, but then there was
that was the one we used.
Yeah, there was one from way earlier, from like when the Dune CCG was out. That was from the just like book images by Iron Crown Enterprises, who used to do L5R.
That had really cool art and stuff for that game.
Oh my gosh, that was good.
But I guess we're getting away from Star Wars now. Anyways,
we needed a podcast where we just look at old issues of Inquest magazine
and Scry
and we just talk with John Jackson Miller every single time.
That I'd be okay with that. Someone call him up, let him know. CCG, it was totally awesome. I want to play some more, Joe and Evan.
All right. Okay, now, hey Christian, what have you been playing?
Oh, hey. I don't really have much. Definitely nothing really Star Wars-y. The only thing I've really been
playing
him
off the
month
show.
Or so.
Get out of here.
The only thing I've really been playing in the last month or so was just D&D 5th Edition, which
it
in
is
that game. So that's been a whole.
It could be Star Wars.
You
could just assume it's on a planet that hasn't been discovered by the,
that's what I was going to say.
Rest of the galaxy.
The players do not know it may take place in the Star Wars universe.
It's true. We just got off the boat the first time. Who knows?
But so far, that has not made itself clear. But that's most of what I've been doing, just because I'm like running like a homebrew campaign. So I've just been.
That's what I would do. I'd end the campaign and be like, "You were in a simulation the whole time."
Please,
you were like one of those. You were like a Total Recall vacation.
Oh,
yeah,
I would have it.
You're on a Star Destroyer.
Then it zooms out to people playing D&D, and then they have to play as those characters.
These are all great ideas.
And then you can switch into that FFG like apocalypse line.
Oh, Christian loves that.
Have like aliens abduct them.
You played that, right?
That game, actually. Yeah, it was not great.
No, I don't know anything about it.
Well, if I played it a second time, I think it would be better. But yeah, it's an interesting system. I don't think the mechanics are great though. But D&D 5th Edition is really all I've been playing. Other than I've been seeing lots of games when I was at GenCon, but I'm not playing a ton.
That's a segue. In fact, that's such a segue. We're just gonna skip me because I haven't been playing anything. Well, except for D&D 5th Edition with Christian.
Yes, a few weeks ago.
Yeah. But yeah, not much of anything really at all since then. So boo for me. So we are gonna just end that there, and let's talk about GenCon, because I wasn't able to do the daily thing, and like I've been doing the past several years, and family stuff and stuff. So yeah, let's skip that. And Christian, you went in my place.
I did. I went on Friday of GenCon as you. To the people of GenCon, I was you. I had your badge on. No one knew. They never checked. And yeah, I went to the...
I like to think that somebody looking at your badge looked at the badge and looked at your face and went, wait a minute. And they looked at your badge again and like, nah, couldn't be.
Yeah. Well, I actually
He
thought that.
doesn't. He doesn't look like an Evan.
Well, I thought that a few times when I was because I posted pictures to the JodoCast Twitter of like the huge line, and there were all these other guys in there being like, like being super in-depth kind of conversations about the different Star Wars games, and like people clearly that knew each other from like one YouTube channel or another. And I was like, is somebody going to come up and think that I'm Evan and me have to be like, I don't know you. I'm sorry.
We do know people from the community, so
I'm sure you guys would have probably known some people in that line, but it was funny. I was just standing there kind of being socially awkward, being like, I hope no one comes and talks to me like I'm
You should have had kind of like a live feed hooked up to your point of view that Evan could monitor.
We forgot
on like
the
a,
GoPro. That's right.
Like a
Yeah.
tablet. So
Then
when
I have,
Evan's
like, a
away
earbud
doing
in.
stuff, yeah.
and he could just feed me lines. I could be like,
Yeah, you
there's
basically, his drone.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to
So-
sort that out for next time. Even
Yeah,
if
that'll
Evan
be
can go, then Leo and I can control you, and then we can experience Gen Con.
firsthand.
Well, the plan, at least for me, is to actually make it next year. So
We'll see. I am still putting Worlds higher on the priority list than Gen Con.
yeah, we'll see. Worlds is a little easier for me.
Right. Yeah, they're about the same amount of cost and effort for me.
So the main thing that day was the in-flight report, and then after that, getting to actually like go to the exhibition hall and see things on the floor. But by this point, I mean, most all that stuff is probably pretty known. But I was kind of just live tweeting it frantically from my phone.
Yeah, people really appreciated that.
Yeah, I have like some like about a year and a half of journalistic-y experience, so I went into full like I'm covering a live event mode and was just frantically like tweeting photos and stuff. I tweeted like it feels like 100 times or something in like a 45
It
minute
was a
span.
lot. It was way better than I do because I get so.
I think
wrapped
it
up
was
anyway.
actually about 111 because I was looking on our Twitter and there's just statistics, and I was looking at the little bar graph of like activity and impressions day by day, and that Friday was like 111 tweets, like 100 some thousand impressions, and it's usually like like maybe 5,000 impressions and 10 tweets or something.
Yeah, so it was really cool to have, trying to be answering questions and people going back and forth. So the whole in-flight report kind of like flew by. But I mean, which I'm sure in a second, you guys are going to like kind of go through the bullet points from that. But I would say the big things being in the room, the things that people were really excited about were let me double check the name of it. The Alpha Class Star Wing. There were literally like rumors, and like there were like people whispering to each other, and people being like Alpha Class, Alpha Class, Alpha Class. And I don't really know what that ship is, so I was like, what are they talking about? This sounds exciting. And it popped up.
It's from
tweeted and hollered.
It's from the old TIE Fighter PC game.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And X-Wing. Actually, it was an X-Wing. Yeah.
Okay. And
But you
as
could
far as-
fly it in type.
I know that ship. There's a thread on the official X-Wing forums that started in like May 2014 about this ship in response to, because people are like, well, we could get this ship. And then someone made this thread, and there's like thousands of posts in this thread. And it's basically just a huge joke about how we're never going to get this ship. And whenever someone's like, I wonder what next wave is, everyone's like, oh, we'll finally get the gunboat. Ha. And it's like, ha. And it was basically just a running joke for like 3 years, and now it's real, which is, I think it's funny.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they commented on even there. They're like the most requested ship in X-Wing history that we have not released yet. And then when they said it, people freaked out about that. A lot of people just standing in the line, kind of everyone assumed that Legion was going to get announced, but that was definitely also the biggest thing there. Definitely like Star Wars related, because they showed that trailer, and then they even got into like really quickly, like within like the 30 seconds or a minute after showing that trailer, they got into like the guy was saying like unit cohesion and stuff on stage. So they pretty quickly got into like the nitty gritty and showed some of the, like the different rulers that it comes with and the cards and that kind of a thing. So it was kind of cool to go from that that they didn't just basically throw that trailer up and end the press conference. They actually talked about it a little more.
Yeah, and Legion, for once you get a JodoCast preview, Legion will be the focus of the next episode of the show, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yes? Okay.
He's
So
not
I guess,
lying.
why don't we back up to X-Wing? So they announced the Alpha Class Star Wing, a.k.a. the Assault Gunboat. And then another ship I'd never heard of, the M12L Kimoglia? Oh,
I say
monster.
Kimogila.
Kimogila.
What's it even from?
Galaxies.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I didn't know if that was like just me or not, like as I was watching these, because I was like, I feel like there was a time when I was like pretty deep into the Star Wars stuff, like vehicles and stuff like that, and they showed those, and I was like, the Alpha Wing or Alpha Class looked a little familiar, and the other two I was like, I don't know what these are from.
You don't know what the Phantom's from. That's not deep. That's just watch the Disney Channel.
Just watch the
is that
Disney.
from-
It's from
from
the current
Rebels.
series, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's about as current Star Wars as you can get.
I'm always surprised at how much stuff they've pulled out of Star Wars Galaxies for
Me
X-Wing.
too.
I mean,
But
they've got
mostly
a whole
scum stuff.
pile of Well, also a lot of. There's been some other pilots and stuff too, like
Sure.
like the other two pilots for the Fire Spray besides Boba Fett. Both
Oh, yeah.
from they were both characters, and I think they were both characters. I know Kath Scarlet was. I can't remember what the other one was, but characters from Star Wars Galaxies and
For the Imperial Fire Spray. Iman
Yeah.
Azamine, I think, is from a different video game. I think. I don't know. But yeah, it's. I guess whenever they're like, well, we don't have like a current canon ship to fit this slot in our wave, let's look to Galaxies. Because I'm sure next wave we'll be getting some Last Jedi stuff. Or there might be Last Jedi stuff landing on Force Friday, like they did with Force Awakens. They kind of released a unannounced expansion on Force Friday. I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen again. Probably not a new core, but maybe just 2 new ships from the movie. Which, I don't know, that's coming up soon. That's September 1st. Mechanically, the Kimogila seemed the most interesting just because it has a new firing arc, the Bullseye. But other than that, I was most excited about the Phantom because I like that ship. And it includes a new chopper card.
And isn't Chopper built into the model? Didn't you say that?
Yeah, I saw a close-up I saw a picture, and you can see a tiny little chopper in the astromech slot on that ship, which I thought was pretty impressive. I mean, I guess you can see them like that on the X-Wings too, but it looked really good on that close-up I saw.
And let's see here. Oh, on your wish list, Joe, for GenCon, you said that you wanted to just hear something, anything, for the Imperial Assault app. And I guess that got a mention, Christian?
Well,
Yeah, I would say anything something is about what it got. They did not really go into any specifics on anything other than saying like there are people who are playing it right now, basically saying like it is in some sort of playable, workable state, and that it's still coming. They're still working on it, but that was kind of the extent of it. There wasn't any hard specifics on any of that.
Well, I think that's still promising. If they hadn't said anything, I'd have been worried because they're like, "Oh, it's still coming." It sounds like there's something internally that's been slowing them down, or I don't know how long it takes to make an app, but they announced it over a year ago. So I don't know. It's coming, so that's good enough for me.
Yeah, it was definitely something that a lot of that was like another one that had a lot of like kind of like room noise around it, and even people in line mentioning and stuff that they like wanted to hear something about. So them mentioning it makes me think that they at least understand the demand for it, and hopefully it will be out sooner rather than later. But they didn't say like by the end of this year or anything like that.
Right. Last I heard, otherwise, before GenCon, I had a brief interaction with somebody on Twitter, and he said it would be out before the end of 2017, but they didn't say that this time, so I don't know.
Okay, so I'm waiting for some big news on the LCG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so really exciting stuff for the LCG.
Uh-huh.
They didn't show a box of it or ever say its name. They didn't even list it on their little bullet points.
Hey, but they didn't say they were canceling it, so that's exciting.
You're right. It was
That's a win.
speaking. So not even in the in-flight report. Do you remember seeing it on the show floor anywhere? Like even in a display case? They did have. I do remember seeing.
Case, no.
I saw they had one of the newer expansions in a display case, but not like the core box, like next to all the other stuff.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't near their kind of core things. Part of me feels like I may have seen it demoed. I'd have to go back and like look at my photos maybe, but it wasn't anything. If it was not anything that I recognized as new. It just looked like, like, oh hey, we also have this. You can play it.
Don't
If you
forget
want.
about me.
But yeah, I didn't really see much of it.
They should change the name to Star Wars, the other card game.
Remember this? The LCG.
Gosh, the card game, parentheses, 2012.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for sure they even at one point they put up a slide that was just like bullet points of like other products and stuff, like other flagship type things that they weren't really hitting on a lot. That they just dropped little like one lines of like, this is kind of the next thing, and I expected it to be on there, maybe naively, but I expected them to at least have some nebulous thing to say, but nope, nothing in the in-flight report or really on the floor that I can think of other than maybe just people playing it.
All right, well, we'll talk about that some other time, I guess.
I've got a feeling we're gonna have like an in memoriam episode about that game real soon.
But we've been saying that. We've been saying
It's
that
coming.
for years.
This cycle, it's the last one. I can feel it.
Ugh. All right.
They're gonna old yeller this game.
I've got my bagpipes ready to play Amazing Grace.
No. All right. Moving on.
They had like a grain of Armada news at the in-flight report. I think we had all predicted they would just announce the next wave of Armada, but they didn't.
I think that's that's the feeling I got. That's what most people were expecting, because people like there was even like one or two people that like shouted out from the crowd as they kind of got through enough that was like Armada, and really all of it that was basically just listed on that bullet point slide I was talking about, and all they said with that was he said that like they are working on it and something big is coming soon, but pretty nebulous still by press conference standards.
But still something.
It is something, yeah. And I mean, they made a point to say that it was like something sizable. So
I think it's going to be
a Death Star the size of a VW Beetle.
Yes,
but it's going to be like like a globe, how it's stood up on your desk or whatever. It's going to be a globe. It's going to have magnets in it. It's going to have conversions for all of the ships and tokens in the game that will magnetize, so you can play on a spherical surface.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So yeah, it is going to be something big.
Like when they say something big, that makes me think Superstar Destroyer, but I still don't think they can fit that in that game.
No, that would be
just. They skew scales in that game all the time, but to that extent, it wouldn't work. So maybe it's just another core box or something, or maybe they're gonna bring in Last Jedi content.
That seems like the most likely thing, I'd say.
Or prequel content, which seems less likely. Given that X-Wing went to Force Awakens, I could see them doing that with. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious because I'm not going to be buying it. I'm just, what are they doing? But if they say something big, that's gets me thinking. Whatever it is, I'll be surprised if it doesn't have Thrawn. So like I said before, he should be in that game already.
Yeah. And did they have anything at all for Destiny, Christian?
They just reiterated that. I can't remember the name of it. You guys know the next
Empire War.
Yes, Empire War. They basically reiterated that was about to be out, and then they unveiled, I think, 3 or 4 cards, which better pictures than the ones I took from people like in the front row, where you can actually read those descriptions.
Yeah, and I think most of those showed up in the article that came out today too.
That's all they showed. I mean, it was kind of cool though, because one of the lead game designer guys on Destiny, who I guess he was also, I can't remember his name. He was
Lucas Litzinger.
Yes, he was one of the lead game designers on Netrunner also. And he actually said in Netrunner, which was the game that I really liked, I played it around the time that it launched. He fought internally for them to remove dice from that game. So he said that part of his design with Destiny was that he had to bring dice back to a card game. So, but he actually kind of like broke down the mechanics of some of the cards and stuff, which was cool. It was just like, it was surprisingly in depth for just like, hey, here are some new cards. But yeah, that was really all that they hit on with Destiny, though, that I remember.
I think they also mentioned that Rise of the Empire for Rebellion is going to be out soon. I think they're just like, this is a thing.
Yep, yeah, that was one of those kind of bullet point items.
And if you don't have time to watch my review, it's pretty cool.
That's the summary of his.
Too long didn't watch. Pretty cool for the most part.
Actually, I would like to get you to expound more on that. Not necessarily now, but there was that one mechanic from it that seemed like they were trying to change how the game is played to a certain extent.
Okay, here's a still, if you don't have time, but more than just one little thing. It feels like Rise of the Empire for Rebellion. They found a new way to do combat and really wanted a way to get it to us, but didn't want to just sell like 20 cards or whatever it was, so they had to build a box around this new mechanic, and then that box, filled up with other things that are actually also fun to play. That's kind of how it felt to me, like, oh, how do we get these new mechanics and cards into these people's hands? Because we can't just sell a little deck of cards.
That sounds pretty cool. To me, at least.
Well, if you guys ever get some games of Rebellion, maybe we can actually do a whole episode about it. Leo, you can go play with Kurt. Didn't Kurt say he bought it today?
Yeah, he did. And I mentioned to him, I think, before when he was talking about buying it, that if he does buy it, to hit me up sometime to play it.
Nice. Yeah, because I played 2 nights back-to-back the other week, and afterwards, I'm like, I kind of want to play this more, even though both games were like 4 hours.
Was there anything RPG related that came out of the In-Flight Report?
Yeah, there was. There was the non-Star Wars related thing, which is really interesting to me, actually, was Fantasy Flight announced Genesis, which is essentially their non-setting specific RPG. But my understanding of it is that it essentially uses the dice system from the Star Wars RPGs. So that sounds interesting.
Yeah, that was there. Yeah, it definitely uses the dice from Star Wars, but just kind of like a framework where you can make it whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, they made it sound like it's more than just that book's going to end up being more than just a repackaging of those mechanics with stuff stripped out. Like they made it sound like they're going to have a lot of like homebrew kind of rules or structure in there to help you come up with, vehicle stats and character and classes and stuff. But it's kind of interesting that that's like from the get-go, their whole thing is to fit anything and work with kind of anything. So I was interested in that, but the only Star Wars RPG thing was the re-release of it's the 30th anniversary, if I'm correct, of the original Star Wars role-playing game. So Pablo Hidalgo from Lucasfilm came out and talked about that, and it was really cool. I mean, he said that the books themselves aren't exact, it's not just an exact reprint. They do have some tweaks and changes and like some additional changes, but he said that everything from those originals is in there. And then he kind of talked about how a lot of the people at Lucasfilm now, that at the time when the role-playing game was first released was when there wasn't really anything, right? Because the first Star Wars movies were out and over, and then there wasn't any like, is there going to be more Star Wars? He was just basically talking about, as a Star Wars fan, really the role-playing game was the main thing you had to go to, and how it was one of the first things to really like kind of expand the universe or give more information about the universe, and then how it's been really formative just to a lot of the people who are at Lucasfilm now. Because I think that's what he started doing was just playing in and running that RPG when it came out, and then of course that led to him actually now shaping Star Wars. So it was really cool retrospective, and the books look really, really nice too.
I don't know if it was. I was watching the In-Flight Report on a live stream on Facebook, as well as refreshing our Twitter account every 5 seconds. But I don't know if he mentioned it or if it was one of the people I was talking to on Twitter who worked on the book. But the book even has like vintage retro ads in the back or whatever where they were in the original one, which I thought was pretty neat.
Well, were they talking about that, or were they talking about, because the old source books also used to have like to be full of like in-universe ads too.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Like my favorite one was the one that had a picture of Lobot, and then it said cybernetic implants worth shaving your head for.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't get a chance to look in the book. I saw the books in the display case and stuff. But it's pretty interesting. I'm most interested from that release just to see how that holds up, because mechanically role-playing games have changed a lot in 30 years. So I'm just kind of interested to actually get a chance to see how it's structured in terms of the mechanics of it. But the books itself looks awesome. It looks like if you really have any experience with that, or even if you just are really like modern Star Wars role-playing games, it would be like a really cool collector's thing to have, even if you don't intend to ever run it.
I already own both of those books, and I'm still totally buying them.
I am thinking about it because, it is like kind of a replica of a really important piece of Star Wars history. We might not have Star Wars as we know it without those role-playing games, but I don't know if I'd ever actually play it, so I don't know if it's worth it just to have it sit on my shelf when maybe I could be buying expansions for a different game. We'll see, because I'm interested in it. I think it's really cool.
The thing is, though, the books are written, especially like the source books, are just packed to the gills with just tons of lore stuff. So, like, even if you never play the game, you can sit down and just read the West End Games role-playing books, which is one of the great things about them.
Yeah, and that was what he spoke to a lot.
I'll have to see how much it costs when it comes out, but
the main source book is a little bit more rules intensive, but the other side source books, like I think it's the Star Wars source book that comes in this pack, this 30th anniversary re-release. All those source books were just there was at least as much just lore and story stuff sprinkled throughout as there was rules things.
I know we've seen this announced on the Fantasy Flight website, but I'm really curious as to whether or not they actually brought it up at the In-Flight Report and tried to make something out of it. Christian, can you tell me anything about the RPG playmat? Because I really want to hear an explanation as to why this exists.
I saw that I didn't see anything about the RPG playmat at GenCon, to answer your question. But when I saw that, I was like, that's the strangest thing I've seen in a long time. It's just like a placemat for, I don't know. No.
Like, and I thought the 2-player, when they released a 2-player mat for the LCG a while back, and everyone was like, okay, but whatever. This one is just like, what? This one is like, less useful than that one was. You as
you play a pen and paper game. So yeah,
I think
they didn't even have a bullet point saying, "Oh, also we're releasing a playmat." I think the art is really cool on the book, so I can't remember, but if it has the same art on it, then that would be cool, I guess. But
the art on the mat is
from Destiny.
Just Luke and Vader. Yeah, the art that's in Destiny.
It's not even like the cover of Edge of the Empire or Force and Destiny or anything like that. It's the freaking Destiny art.
It's just a Starfield.
Gosh damn it!
And I would imagine that the reference material on the mat because it says a simple check has 1 purple die or no purple dice, easy is 1, average is 2, and all this stuff about skill checks for dice. I would imagine that's all like right there on the GM screen for the most part.
It is.
Yeah, it's like they wanted to make a player version of the DM screen. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, they didn't mention it. They didn't talk any non-30th anniversary RPG stuff.
Okay.
Either.
At least they didn't try to like justify it like, "Hey everybody," or maybe they were going to, and someone was like, "No, don't do that."
No. Don't try to make this look like anything but just a little bit of money on the side here.
Yeah, very little. All right, and you've already mentioned Legion was kind of the big thing, the big rumor that became the biggest announcement, and we'll definitely be talking about that on the next episode. So if anyone came to this episode thinking, "Ooh, Legion, yes," hold your horses. We got
wah,
wah. we thought it deserved its own episode.
Which it
does. I mean, I think judging from the reveal of it, I think that it does. A lot of people super excited. I mean, it was probably the most swamped thing on the show floor in GenCon general, other than definitely the most I've seen people like huddled around a thing. Other than that, it may have been like a game release here or there where there were big lines of people. But
L5R looked like it was pretty big this year.
Yes, that was another thing from the In-Flight Report that people got really excited about.
Legend of the Five Rings.
Yes. But
they had like people marching around with banners and stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, because you got to represent your clan.
Yeah,
I wish they had the time and the money to actually play that game.
Well, all I know is the Star Wars LCG is kind of where it's always been, but is Netrunner and the Game of Thrones card game 2nd edition, like, are those still popular? Because I know Netrunner used to be huge, and I don't see anybody talk about it.
Most of my experience with Netrunner was around that first like year or two that it came out, so I don't know how big it is now.
There's still, at least
I
like
know there
here
are people who still talk about loving it, though.
Here in Fargo, there's still a group of dedicated players.
I think overall, I mean, like there was a point at which it was as big as X-Wing, but now I think it has died down considerably. Its card base grew so much faster than Star Wars LCG, and people probably got tired of keeping up with it. And I think it hit a meta point at which there was only like one way to play for each side, and it never changed. The meta never shifted at all. So I think that's kind of hurt it a little bit.
Yeah, a really cool thing with Legend of the Five Rings, though, that they hit on in the In-Flight Report. So I guess that day before, so on the Thursday of Gen Con, they had the first like Legend of the Five Rings tournament, and that was the big thing with guys in like samurai armor with banners and everything that you may have seen pictures from. And the cool thing with that was they were talking about how I guess this was a thing that they did with Legends of the Five Rings originally, but that it was the winners of tournaments and stuff determine like the lore of the game going forward. So like the faction that won a certain thing, and then basically these two factions that did different things in the tournaments, those are like now go down in the lore of the game as being like the winning faction of these key battles. And the next tournament is going to be like all the decorations and stuff there are going to be of the Dragon Clan that won because it's supposed to be hosted in their castle, and it also would have changed the story. And I thought that was a cool idea of having the competitive side of the game actually affect kind of the lore to some extent.
I'm really glad that they're carrying that forward, because I always thought that was one of the coolest things about the old game is, like they basically set up the tournaments to represent like some battle or something like that. That was the climax of whatever the current story was or whatever.
Yeah, so they seem really dedicated to keeping that idea going. And they unveiled like this is the results of yesterday's tournament, and we'll see in the coming months and up to the full up to like as the game progresses, basically how they're going to how that'll shape the story. But I thought that was a cool idea, and it gives you a story reason to follow the competitive side a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna at least get the core box of that. That's one game that I have, even before they announced it was going to be an LCG. I looked at that game when it was a CCG from AEG, and I'm like, man, I wish so badly that that could be an LCG, because the way that they were selling it, you would have to literally spend hundreds of dollars just to get into it. It was ridiculous. So the way, now with an LCG, it's perfect. Well, for me, it's perfect at least. So
yeah, it gives you a good point to start, to at least jump on for a while with those games, which I like a lot.
And I think that's it for the in-flight report. You mentioned you got on the show floor a little bit.
Yeah, they had really awesome, really impressive scenery and painted miniatures for Legion, and the show floor was just insane as always. Outside of the Legion demos were it was a pretty small area. They were running 4 tables on, and it was pretty they were kind of controlling on who could get closest and what. So that was pretty slow going, especially initially when they first brought those out. But other than that, a lot of the coolest thing, other than getting that first chance to look at Legion, and then Fantasy Flight always sets up their whole display cases where you could actually see the new X-Wing ships that were coming out and stuff. Was I didn't get a chance to sit and demo it, but I got a chance to watch a lot of the demo for the Fallout board game, which I was super skeptical of when they talked about it at the in-flight report, and I had seen a little bit about it before that, but it actually looks really, really cool. So that was the main thing from the show floor that I was, other than stuff we've already talked about, that I found myself being pretty excited for.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how they were going to pull off a Fallout board game. Not that I'm the biggest fan of Fallout, but I just do think it's interesting to see how they're going to differentiate it from the other, especially Bethesda. I guess they like working with them. Board games like Doom and, well, I guess XCOM and Gears of War aren't Bethesda, but I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, it was cool though. I mean, it has quest lines and loot, and you discover. The map has kind of hexes that you flip, so you're discovering the map in a different order each time, and it had you level up, and so you play with multiple people at once, but it's not necessarily entirely cooperative. It just looked like it had a lot of the elements from Fallout in there in interesting ways, at least in ways that made me want to actually pick it up when it comes out. So that was pretty cool.
And as I recall, you didn't participate in any tournaments or anything like that, right?
No, but yeah, there's just not really any of that kind of thing right now that I'm I've kind of deep dived personally into role-playing game side of things. So,
oh, I know.
So no tournaments or anything like that I participated in, but of course that's always a massive side of GenCon. So I walked around and looked at some of them, watched some of them, but
did you give them some tips over their shoulders, you should move that one?
No, I mostly. Well, so I walked around to the different tournaments that were going on of some of the games that you'd expect or things that you're used to. But my favorite thing about Gen Con is always just going to the really weird, esoteric war games. That these guys had a blue cloth that was probably 50 feet by 50 feet, laid out on this huge chunk of space. Tiny, I would say 2 to 3 inch long battleships on opposite corners, and they were using laser pointers to simulate firing shells miles across the ocean at each other. That's always my favorite part of Gen Con, is you're just there's some game like this, and there's enough guys to play it that they can set up a tournament here. That's awesome.
Probably only at Gen Con.
Yes, yeah, I don't think they have many in-store tournaments, in-store championships going on.
Or they play by mail. And just send pictures of what they're trying to do.
This was bigger than a living room. I don't know where you
oh my gosh
play this, but
interesting. All right, cool. Did Leo, Joe, do you have any more questions for Christian? Ooh, we could make that a regular segment. Questions for Christian.
It's just
I'm not that interested.
whatever.
No? All right. Then I guess we got nothing.
I'm good.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you, Christian, for, like I said, doing my job for me. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for letting me into GenCon under your name.
Anytime. Well, hopefully more of us will actually be there, and we can take up a whole row at the In-Flight Report, right smack in front, and tell everybody else to take a hike. If that's what you do.
Seats taken.
So we're going to wrap this guy up, and depending on what time it is, we might just talk about some Legion pretty quick. So there's that. All right. In the interest of moving things along, again, thank you, Christian, and Leo and Joe for, existing.
I do my best.
You do good work. I admire it. If people want to check out our Patreon, they can over at patreon.com/thejodocast. And you too can be as awesome as the people that we mentioned at the top of the hour.
Patrick Allen, Seth Glenn, Christian.
Yay.
There you go. Proving his worth. If you want to listen to us elsewhere than where you're currently listening, or you want to tell a friend and they're like, I only listen to podcasts on this one app, you can tell them to find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, and they can load our RSS feed into whatever podcatcher they use. If people want to talk with us, you can do so on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I think Instagram still. I'm not the Instagrammer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Instagram's slow, but we're there. Things happen.
If people want to watch us, they can do so on Twitch and YouTube. And as a reminder, these are almost all /the JodoCast. However you get to a place on these individual platforms /the JodoCast. If you want to talk with us and other people, you can do so at reddit.com/r/thejodocast, like that, see? And also on our Discord, where we have all day long conversations on all manner of topics. So you don't even have to be a patron, like some other folks might make you do, to join the Discord. You can just hop right on and start talking, and if you want to be really awesome, then you become a patron and you can hang out in your own private lounge. It's pretty sweet in there.
It's very exclusive. It makes me feel great.
Only the finest human beings can join the patron lounge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't just let anybody in. You have to just be a patron.
And you can find all of that previously mentioned information, as well as some other things, over at jodocast.com. And if you really, really, really need to, you can email us, show@jodocast.com. Just let us know elsewhere that you did. Otherwise, we'll probably miss it. And with that, unless we got anything else, if I forgot anything? Anybody? All right, hearing nothing. We'll catch you next time.